Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our preview for the Blacklist Season 8, Episode 14. Miser, it is here. Liz is back. We've all seen it in the promo, the pictures. We discussed this a little bit previously, but there's no mystery anymore.
No, she is back, and I know that there will be some out there that will not be that happy that she is back. We've seen you guys in the comments, but here we are where I am happy because the main story for me has always been about Red, about Liz, and about the mystery between them.
I think their relationship is hugely important, and I think especially right now with the storyline that they have presented, if Liz never showed up again, it would sort of be like, well, what was the point of everything before she left? Like, it would just be a complete waste of time. So we have a lot to talk about with Liz in this episode, but we're going to spend a little bit of time because I will tell you, the moment that I heard Catherine Nemec, a.k.a. Mr. Kaplan's voice in that promo, my grounds and hounds nearly hit all over the floor. Like, yeah. I was going to lose my coffee, lose all of my... I love Mr. Kaplan.
Oh, who doesn't?
One of my favorite all-time characters. I know the middle of Season 4 where they were, like, wasting a lot of time getting to the good stuff was a bit of a chore, but that end of Season 4, fire. I'm so excited, but we'll talk in this video. Is Mr. Kaplan really back? What does this mean? What could it be? All right, before you get that detective cap on, just hold on a second here because we need you to hit that subscribe button. That is the new mystery. How do you hit it? You don't need a detective cap. You just click the button. It makes sure you don't miss any other updates. Hey, you know what? We got to keep it up.
This was a really cool thing that we found out. So I'll quickly say, Jason Prager, who is friend of the channel, friend of ours, actually best friend of ours. He's family to us. Yep. We found out recently that his mom, Mrs. Prager, is watching our videos, which is really exciting because, we adore her. So I just want to take a moment to be like, hi, Mrs. Prager.
Hello.
Thank you for watching the videos, and thank you for everyone who has been watching the videos with us.
Yeah, it's been so fun seeing, all of our other, I feel like Blacklist fans should be called Blacklisters, but then at the same time, that's sort of suggesting that we're all criminals.
Right.
I don't exactly know, I don't know tell us what the best name for Blacklist fans is, because we're all in on this. Okay. Mr. Kaplan.
Oh, man. Hearing her voice on this, there were so many things running through my head. And I know that one of the biggest things out there is sort of this theory that she is still alive. Because in TV land, no body, kind of no death. You don't see somebody go into the ground, no death. I mean, in this show, for sure, loves to fake deaths. So is it possible that she is actually still alive? For me, I feel that she is not.
I think she's dead, and I say this full well, and I know you guys can look up the receipts where we went down this really intense is Tom still alive rabbit hole for like 10 minutes earlier this season, but I think he's dead. I think Mr. Kaplan is dead. I think for them to suddenly bring up Mr. Kaplan now, like 4 seasons later, like, what would Mr. Kaplan be doing in all this time? Like, it only took her, 4 or 5 episodes to recover from being shot in the head by Reddington.
Yeah, because the other thing is if she was alive all this time, why hasn't she still been sort of helping Liz? I mean, she's been a big part of Liz's life throughout this whole thing. And if she's been sort of secretly helping Liz off screen for year after year after year and we haven't seen it, I'm not going to be really happy with that reveal. I'm going to feel like I've been robbed.
Yeah, like, if you have Mr. Kaplan and you haven't been giving us Mr. Kaplan, I'm gonna have a strongly worded letter in video form on Friday's episode because I love this character and I'm already kind of excited for how exactly she comes back, and that's what we'll get into here because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, because hearing her voice, clearly she's gonna have some sort of a role. Now, whether it's in Liz's head as someone who is sort of, not mentoring her, but like someone who was very important to her and sort of finding the truth and that sort of thing, that Liz has been on this path for a long time. And, you know, Mr. Kaplan's had a role in some of this to make sure that she found out the truth to some degree. I mean, I know we're still on this road. We're not there yet. But I mean, this is where Liz is. So it would make sense to have Mr. Kaplan in her head, sort of helping her roll along with this to get to the answers.
Here is a hot take. Mr. Kaplan was more of a mother figure than Katerina Rostova for Liz. I mean, Mr. Kaplan, she helped Liz basically fake her death and run away. And that is a huge thing.
All facts, no cap.
Never thought we'd have that in a video, but, you know, it is one of those situations. I mean, she was a nanny to Liz when she was Masha at a very young age. There is a connection there, and, you know, through the entirety of the end of that Mr. Kaplan arc, her whole goal was sort of really exposing a lot of the truth behind Reddington, that he had sort of deviated so far from what Mr. Kaplan thought was the goal, which was to protect Liz. And I mean, we can get into whether or not that's really Reddington's goal, you know, when everything stops. Maybe Mr. Kaplan didn't know everything about the friend from the East or whatever else.
Yeah, and she probably didn't. I think she knew some stuff, but she didn't know everything. I mean, the other thing that it could be, because we just heard her voice, is maybe Mr. Kaplan left a recording or some sort of notes for Liz that maybe she's been either listening to or following through the notes all this time. Or maybe there's a recording or notes that now she has opened or is listening to be able to move to this next step.
Maybe, and here's another crazy idea, because I know Community did this once, where they did this episode that was just full of, like, deleted scenes that weren't actually deleted. They just, like, made up some flashbacks. Like, maybe the Blacklist can make up some scenes with, like, Mr. Kaplan and Liz that they, like, never showed us before. I mean, granted, if they do this and it contains, like, this huge revelatory information and they never told us about this, I'm not going to be happy at all.
No, it has to make sense. And, I mean, looking at this promo, it does look like obviously we're going to see a lot of sort of what was going on during this time that we haven't seen her. But I mean, we may be getting sort of flashbacks further than that, where Mr. Kaplan, whatever she said or had to say, maybe there's stuff that was off screen that we didn't see that is going to come into play now. Stuff that Liz has been holding on to sort of in the back of her mind for when she got to this point, if it ever came up, and now she is here, and that's why we're hearing her voice.
I'm actually gonna do a flashback of our own here. We're gonna flash back to the start of this season when John Bokenkamp told us that they were gonna play around with time this season, and they were gonna do some different things as opposed to like the typical character spotlight episode like we had last season. And you know, we hadn't really seen that much of that so far this season. So clearly, John, who co-wrote this episode, so it's obviously a big one to him, this was planned a long time ago, and he sort of reiterated that to Entertainment Tonight, and also suggested they will be playing with perspective, which sort of maybe brings back what you said a minute ago, that this is sort of a vision of Mr. Kaplan speaking to Liz or something in that degree.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, now, the promo, it has a little bit of Mr. Kaplan narration in it, so I'm going to read for a second, which is why my eyes are going to be looking some weird direction, but Mr. Kaplan says, "This is the last thing I ever wanted for you, which is why the next part will be painful. You know what you have to do in this now, dearie." And of course you have to say dearie at the end to just make it that much more creepy and perfect for Mr. Kaplan. I miss you.
The thing that I worry about when she says this is, if this is a situation where Liz is hearing Mr. Kaplan in her head, she can make Mr. Kaplan say whatever she wants to fit her own narrative. So in the past, Liz is not someone who was just going to kill innocent people. It's not really her thing. Now, though, we have seen her almost crash 2 full planes of innocent people. It didn't happen, and she left enough clues for the task force to be able to get it together. But I mean, It was real close. That could have not been a thing. And she could have killed all of those people on both of those planes. So maybe we're in a situation where Liz is making her own version of Mr. Kaplan tell her everything she wants to hear, where it's okay, you know what you have to do. And then she's going to kill Anne in front of Red. I hate saying it, but I mean, this is a very dark show. And there's a lot of characters that have gone in a lot of dark places. I mean, Liz has gone in some pretty creepy places. And do we need to reenact her being the stew maker? Right?
And that there are some dark spots to Liz, and I do think Liz has some sort of a code buried somewhere within her, but this was pointed out, I think, by a couple of commenters on this past episode, and I didn't necessarily think of it, but those cops who got killed in the midst of this showdown with Neville, like, there's some blood on her hands there, too, and we don't know exactly what her role was in orchestrating that with Townsend.
Yeah, and I mean, we've also seen in the comments, so thank you guys for bringing this up. We really appreciate it, because it gives us this to talk about.
Yes.
This idea that Liz's sort of alias in the past has been Cynthia, and the friend of Anne, who has the cabin, who gave the cake, is named Cindy. So it is possible that Liz has been in Anne's life a little while now.
Liz is pretty good at planning, and I know this has been a critique of this season in general, that Liz, it's like when you played one of those old school shooting games and you could like turn on God mode and nobody could touch you or destroy you. Liz has been operating on God.
The good old days.
When you could just cheat your way through a game.
That's right.
Liz has been playing on God mode too much this season, and Liz should not be perfect. No. She should be making mistakes. I hope we see a little bit more of that. The photos for this episode are interesting because my first indication that for sure this was not some producer fake out was there was a picture of Liz sitting at that Cyranoid table.
Yep.
And so you could see, okay, we're going to see the other side of that craziness when that poor Cyranoid woman was talking to Townsend.
Yeah, because it also looks like we're going to get it from that perspective where we see Townsend sitting at the other end of the table.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into that. We'll learn a little bit more about Skip. I know there's already a lot of theories that, like, you know, is Skip secretly running things, or is Skip some sort of like weird triple agent or whatever?
Yeah, and I've seen the idea that maybe Skip has been working for Reddington this whole time to sort of keep tabs on Liz.
Here's what I think about Skip right now. Nothing, because we have seen almost no Skip whatsoever. He's just kind of like a dude right now to me. Not Congressman dude who we've already introduced this season, but
Yes.
I don't know what they're going to be doing with Skip. But we have clearly a lot to be excited about with this episode.
I'm really excited that Liz is going to be back, and I do hope that there is going to be some really good sort of Mr. Kaplan somehow put into this episode. I mean, I don't know if it's just voice.
Yeah.
I don't know if we would see her. I'm kind of hoping it's going to be maybe like a bit more of just the voice sort of in her head kind of thing. But if we had something that was like a Dexter Morgan where, you know, the dad is hanging around, I'm not going to be mad about that either.
Mr. Kaplan's the new Harry. Can we call
right.
Can we call her Harry Kaplan?
Yeah.
Okay, I will. I actually have a voice in my head right now. It's telling me this is how the episode is going to go.
Okay.
I'm putting it out there, and I may take a big L. Okay, this episode's going to start with Liz with that gun pointed at Anne.
Yeah.
And then while we see that, we're going to flash back to everything else.
Yep.
We're going to see the whole path, and then it's going to end with her either killing Anne or her not killing Anne and walking away, and there's something else that happens.
If she walks away, though, I mean, like, then what was the whole point of this?
I don't know. I just want to live in a world.
That's why I'm really worried about Anne. I mean, really, I don't know what the point is.
Anne might have to die. Okay, all right. Well, you know what? Tell us how Anne doesn't have to die in the comments. Find a way to make us feel better about ourselves. We want to believe in true love here. Okay. If you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe. And yes, give us all of your predictions for this episode. Hopefully it's a good one. And if you did enjoy this video, if you want to support us more, we have links in that description to both the store and our Patreon. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you here next time.